Hey, what's up, homies? Welcome back to the small corner of my office. Hope everybody's having a great day, but if you're one of the 9.8 million people who are unemployed right now, I've got some bad news for you. The illness that's swept the globe over the past year has affected people of different income classes disproportionately. The wealth gap between those in typically higher paying white collar jobs and everyone else has widened a lot. And if you've heard anything about a K-shaped recovery, this is what everyone's talking about. People recover unequally. Some bounce back quickly at a positive rate while others don't see any recovery at all. And we're currently seeing this by the 9.8 million people who are still unemployed. Unemployment is going up. And what's even worse is that a lot of these people are about to lose the additional benefits they've been receiving as part of funding from government programs aimed at keeping Americans out of poverty. And for 34 states, those additional benefits are being taken away earlier than scheduled. What does this mean for people who are still struggling? And how is this going to affect the economy since less people are working? Before I get into all that, my last video got a lot more attention than I was expecting, which brought in a lot of new viewers and subscribers. And to everyone who takes the time to watch my videos, I genuinely just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll do my best to continue to add value to your day with the few minutes that I have with you guys. Anyway, back to this whole unemployment business. During the height of the pandemic, those who were collecting unemployment could qualify for an additional $600 on top of the unemployment money that is normally given out. In January of this year, though, that number was dropped to $300 rather than $600. These extra benefits were set to last until September. 34 states, though, have chosen to cut aside the additional benefits and only pay the normal amount starting in June. For those who don't have savings or family or something else to fall back on, this means that people could literally become homeless, thrown out on the streets because of an inability to have a sufficient source of income. And I don't want to take a political side here because that's really not the goal of this channel. But there's a couple thought processes on why benefits should or should not be continued. I'll dive into that first and then share with you what I think the solution may be. So first, now would be a great time to like the video if you haven't already. It costs you nothing and it does a whole lot to support the channel. Also, I don't know if you've heard, but America is experiencing a labor shortage right now. In fact, some places will even pay you just to show up for a job interview. Since this article is from April, I don't know if they're still doing it, but this Florida McDonald's has been paying people $50 just to come to the job interview. It's not just Florida that's hurting though. New York City's restaurant industry has been crippled by people moving out of the city and others not returning to work over health and safety concerns. And this is common throughout the rest of the US too, where there are jobs actually available, but they're typically lower paying jobs where it's difficult to live off of their pay. And this sucks for a lot of businesses, but I think this is the time for the everyday worker to stand up and say no. People have had a lot of time just spent alone with their thoughts, and as a society, we've decided to place a higher value on mental health and having a good work-life balance. And don't get me wrong here, most of the effects of 2020 have been awful, but this could be great. I'd hate to see this force good businesses to die off, but it makes me excited to think that people are waking up and deciding not to take a low-paying job, forcing employers to offer more money. And I think that it's super important to prioritize having a good work-life balance. That's why I decided to start a YouTube channel, while also being a full-time student, while also working full-time in the finance industry. For real though, I would love to see conditions and wages increase for the average worker to a level that supports a higher quality of life. And even though this is a short-term struggle for businesses to be able to find employees to actually work, I hope that long-term changes are put in place in result of this that help employees overall. Back to the unemployment issue though. Lawmakers are concerned that with these extra benefits going out to people are just becoming comfortable living off of government aid and not actually wanting to go out to work. Depending on where you live, people may legitimately be needing and using that money. Where I live though, it's pretty cheap compared to most of the US, and I personally know people who said to me during the pandemic that they were considering leaving their jobs just to sit at home and collect unemployment checks and watch Netflix all day. And keep in mind, this is just anecdotal evidence here, but I totally get the rationale. It's human nature to look for the highest return for the least amount of work. So if you can make a similar amount of money sitting at home on your couch, why be a part of the rat race? So I totally get why Congress and governors want to get people back to work. And it may be true that cutting that financial umbilical cord would be the catalyst that we need to get people back into the workforce and lower unemployment levels. On the flip side though, I'm sure there are people out there who could still use that extra money. The regular unemployment benefits just don't cut it, or maybe their costs have increased because they're caring for family members, or they're paying for out-of-pocket healthcare costs. They don't have health insurance anymore, they lost their job, or whatever it is. They still need that money. I believe it is the responsibility of the government to create an environment that fosters productive citizens who contribute to the economy and to society. And recognizing that everyone gets kicked down at some point, there also need to be safety nets in place that keep people from staying down. But this is the government we're talking about, so that's probably too much to ask for. And I may not have the answer for whether or not benefits for unemployment should be extended, but all of this leads me to believe that there's a bigger dilemma in need of solving. Why are we sending out this extra money if the checks before were sufficient? Most people are spending less because they're not doing anything. They're just staying at home, not spending any money. So shouldn't the base unemployment checks be enough for these people? Or were the unemployment checks from the olden days never actually enough to cover the expenses for a family in the first place? Was our safety net of the unemployment program ever actually set up in a robust way that could cover someone's basic needs, or has it always been failing us? I don't think that government aid should be so impactful that people are incentivized to just stay home and not contribute to society. And there's something to be said about just living within your means in the first place, but when people encounter hardships, they've got too much else on their plate to have to worry about not being able to make their housing payments and possibly becoming homeless. I feel like the long-term solution here is to first have more financial education in schools. And until that happens, we're already setting up the next generation for failure before they even start. And the second part to the solution here is to have our government take a look at the unemployment program. I don't want to turn the whole country into one big welfare state, but we shouldn't have ever had to send out additional checks if the unemployment program already worked. It definitely needs to be revised, with the dollar amount on the check being regionally specific and made to keep up with inflation. That way no one in 2025 has to live off of an income that was established back in 2005. And it would obviously take some funding to do this, but the Federal Reserve or some other government agency, I don't even care which one, needs to take in data about the cost of living in different cities and states. That way, when an emergency comes up, a family can actually be covered. A study like this would be valuable for more than just adjusting the welfare program for unemployment. I feel like now is a great time to look back and learn from the past year to see how we can create a better future. So those are my thoughts toward a general solution. It's not super detailed because I'm not trying to run a political campaign here and convince you to follow my ideology or vote for me. But I would love to have a discussion about how we can fix this program and prevent people from having to take drastic measures or living out on the streets. If you ever had to live off of unemployment, I'd love to hear about that experience if you're willing to share about it. So let me know in the comments how that went for you or what your thoughts are on how we can fix this program. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. I love you guys, and I'll catch you next time.